Well, see, it's funny. The way you ask that, you say that is actually what's interesting. The bottom line is that all those guys that wrote that stuff, they didn't write it as cautionary tales. They wrote it as like this beautiful future that they couldn't wait to be a part of. I mean, you get into a lot of the trans movement stems from those people and their desire to shed the skin and become one with the singularity. Like those guys, a lot of the guys in the cyberpunk movie are strange.
Cyberpunk 2077, or its predecessor, 2020, was not pro transhumanism, as far as I can tell. Like, as soon as you introduce cyber psychosis as a key mechanic, you are not in support of ripping apart your body.
I think there's, I guess, there's certain people that maybe were that. I think there are like
there are secondary movers that latched onto it because it's a really cool aesthetic.
Well, Kurzweil is the guy I'm thinking of in particular that really is a complete nut job about all of this. But yeah, I was always weird when I saw Cyberpunk 2077 come out because for me, I knew Cyberpunk as a board game that I used to play with my buddy's dad, like when I was a kid. Not a board game, but like tabletop RPG. And like I just remember how much I loved the classes in that game compared to like standard D&D. I'm like, you mean like I can be a hitman and like just go out and kill people and like get cybernetics? This is the best version of RPG. How do we do more of this? So from a philosophical like position, that absolutely is right up my alley and like totally all about it. Now, do you have a like hero protagonist, quote unquote, to reference that's a very strong central character?
Hero protagonist, the guy from Snow Crash.
Which I always thought was probably the best joke of that book was like literally like just tell you exactly what we got here.
So yeah, like I said, the main character is Detective Blackstone. So in a sense, it's not cyberpunk. It's technically tech-noir because the main character is a police officer. He's not a punk.
And that was my next question. It sounds very noir.
Yeah, it's technically tech-noir, but no one knows what the hell tech-noir is. Cyberpunk is branding, it's marketing. People know what they're getting into. Like, they open the book and it's like corporate VTubers and holograms and virtual reality matrix level. People are flying around on hoverboards. It's got all the cool crap of cyberpunk, even though it's technically a noir detective story. Sue me. But yeah, the idea is that he's like the one guy that still cares. It's a highly urbanized, broken, in a lot of ways, broken society where like the number one thing that police do, because most of the day-to-day police work has been outsourced to private security firms that work for the corporations. The police are known for showing up and killing drug dealers and like almost nothing else because they're not obligated to do anything else.
And it's, hey, stop the paperwork here.
But yeah, Detective Blackstone is the one that actually shows up when people have problems and genuinely tries to help, even though everyone hates him because he's a cop.
Okay. I don't know why, for some reason, like thinking about that's reminded me of Brazil a little bit. Only I hope less dystopian than Brazil is.
Surprisingly, it's not a dystopia. It was like meant to be a dystopia. It's this walled megacity where no one's allowed to leave, ruled over by a technically fascist government, where the police have authority to just kill people left and right.
Okay.
And yet it's better than current day somehow.
I don't know, sound much different than current day in a lot of places. Exactly. But
the big difference is the government doesn't really care how you live your life. They aren't prying in to try and read your brain Big Brother style like we're currently seeing. They just don't care. As long as they stay in charge, everything's fine.
Interesting. Now, obviously there's a lot of politics involved in there. Is that like, did you go into writing a book like very politics heavy? Ultimately, the book you're writing is very similar to one I tried to write and then decided it would be too damn preachy if I tried to write it. I might as well write a philosophical book as opposed to an actual fiction book.
Yeah, so the thing is that there are social political themes, but like a surveillance state really isn't like a political issue. Like when people say it's oh my god, you're bringing politics into fiction or something, they're talking about a few very specific issues, which I don't write about those, third rail issues. The idea of internal corruption or the police force not bothering to crack down on crime because it doesn't serve their purposes and so on. those aren't particularly controversial things, and they're things that everyone should be able to agree on.
Well, the real reason I ask that question isn't so much that I care about the politics. It's just when people tend to put politics in the front of what they're doing, you tend to get a shitty product. If like they care more about their political messaging than the writing, like most libertarian musicians I know are terrible because they all they want to do is preach politics and didn't learn, oh, I've got to write a good song along the way here.
Yeah, the book has to be entertaining. Like Faceless is a murder mystery first and foremost. Uh, this one explores the situation with the gangs and the fact that you can't leave the city, and why you can't leave the city. Spoiler: there's a pandemic outside the walls that may or may not be an issue. Yeah, you've grown, but it's not.
No, I grown because I'm like 2 years ago when I was fixing to write my fiction novel. I'm like, yeah, it was part of it, definitely part of it. Yeah, it's all kind of in there because how could you not?
Yeah, so but the thing is, this is a story of a manhunt. It is a kid made a mistake and he broke a beer bottle over someone else's head because the guy was kissing his girlfriend, and the guy went down. Oh, murder. Oh, that's a life ruined. Oh my god. And the he goes on the run, and Blackstone is the one that has to try and bring him in because the victim was the son of a congressman. And I get into that, is it corruption or is it not angle? Because the congressman basically calls up the police department and says, get this guy now. That was my son. Your funding depends on this. And it's just like, well, he is a criminal. He should be brought to justice. We're getting the priority is being set for improper reasons, though, right?
All right, well, obviously, given the name of the show and what I told you beforehand, I want to spend a couple minutes kind of deciphering what are the things, I guess, as far as like reaching an audience and getting your name out there that have frustrated you most or that you found that you've had the most success in and perhaps maybe been surprised with.
I think if you ask any author and they don't lie to you, the actual answer is going to be how few people read. Reading is just dying. The industry is propped up by whales like you that read 100 books in a year. The average, I would argue, I would predict that the median amount of books read by an adult American is zero.
I believe the average is most Americans don't read a book after 12th grade, a single book.
So when I like go to the clubs and events in the area or host a talk at my local library and all that, and I talk to people and I go like, so do you read? And like, oh, I just don't have the time. It's like, oh, really? Because you were just telling me about Netflix. You have all this time to rewatch The Office on Netflix, but you won't crack open a book. It doesn't even have to be my book. I want people reading, period. But everyone spends their time on TikTok or Netflix or hate watching Disney movies. So that's obviously a huge frustration because
I watched 7 Marvel movies. That's it. Out of the entire run, I saw 7 of them.
there were more than 7 good ones.
No,
It's
that's
not
just all
like
I saw. I didn't. I've never cared about superheroes, so like I never bought into it. I like James Gunn is the only reason I watched the Guardians movies because he did cool stuff.
the disconnect. It creates this issue where no matter how good my book is, even if my book were the best thing ever put to paper, I still cannot sell it to most people.